Hey there, it snowed last night. As promised, today I'm going to begin my reading with commentary, and I'm going to read this book, Wuthering Heights. A little background on this book, was written by Emily Bronte, as all of my literate viewers can see. It was published in 1848 under the pseudonym Ellis Bell, so that people would think it was written by a man, so it would be more likely to be published and or read. Emily Bronte died shortly after it was published, and I think she might have been a little bit crazy, but don't quote me on that. I could be making it up. I have the book open to chapter 1. I don't know if you can see it, because I can't see it. Oh, there it is. And I'm just gonna start reading and commentating, and we'll see what happens. Here we go. 1801. Apparently that's when this is supposed to take place, in 1801. I have just returned from a visit to my landlord, the solitary neighbor that I shall be troubled with. Apparently this is beginning as a journal entry type thing. The bulk of this story is a story within a story. For those of you who don't know, I have read this book before, so I do have the advantage over you all. So let's get back to it. A beautiful country. He's in England. It is a perfect misanthropist's heaven. Mr. Heathcliff and he, or I, technically since this bit is in the first person, are such a suitable pair to divide the desolation between us. A capital fellow. Quite soon we will learn that he is not at all a capital fellow. This bit is a little weird. He little imagined how my heart warmed towards him when I beheld his black eyes withdraw so suspiciously under their brows, as I rode up, when his fingers sheltered themselves with a jealous resolution still further in his waistcoat, as I announced my name. Man crush, maybe? Mr. Heathcliff, I said. A nod was the answer. Mr. Lockwood, your new tenant, sir. Apparently, I am Mr. Lockwood. I feel weird saying I am Mr. Lockwood, because clearly I am not Mr. Lockwood. He was very perseverant in his trying to occupy Thrushcross Grange, which he has now succeeded in, and hopes that Mr. Heathcliff has not been inconvenienced by his perseverance. And Mr. Heathcliff informs him that no one can inconvenience him because it is his own property. So he walks in and shows them around, and they don't speak. Apparently there are no domestics, grass grows by itself, and cattle are the only hedge cutters. It's a bit poetic, don't you think? There is one servant-type person named Joseph. He's an old, sinewy man. Not really sure what that means, but I guess maybe, well, he's old. It's the important bit, and he's a little bit bitter because he's old. Maybe because he works for Mr. Heathcliff. Now we see the name of the novel appearing in the novel, which for you is upside down. Mr. Heathcliff lives at Wuthering Heights. I wonder how that particular establishment will factor into this little book. There's grotesque carving lavished over the front, which does not sound at all pleasant. It is dated 1500 with the name Hareton Earnshaw. He walks right into the sitting room without any introduction or passage or anything like that. It's your basic house. It has kitchens and parlors and things. Well, one of each. It's weird if you have more. It means you're filthy, filthy rich. The narrator gives a little running commentary of his own on the character of Mr. Heathcliff. He's bestowing his own attributes over-liberally on him. So apparently he's describing him wrong. He comes across a beautiful woman who he describes as a real goddess in his eyes. He never told his love vocally. Not sure why he would want to do that, seeing as he's just met said woman. And he retreats into himself like a snail, so apparently he's not too good around women, which would explain the whole non-vocal love thing. Tries to pet a dog and it growls at him. And Mr. Heathcliff growls back, "You'd better let the dog alone." That wasn't very growly, but I can't do a growly man voice. Heathcliff calls for Joseph, who does not respond, so then Heathcliff dives into the cellar. I hope that doesn't mean literally, because that doesn't sound very smart, diving into one's cellar. Leaving the narrator vis-a-vis the Fainley bitch and a pair of grim, shaggy sheepdogs, who shared with her a jealous guardianship over all my movements. In other words, 2 dogs, 1 female. No, 3 dogs. I can count. 1 female, 2 male, staring him down. A little bit scary, don't you think? Mr. Heathcliff comes out of the cellar. The exact words Emily uses are, "Mr. Heathcliff and his man climb the cellar steps with vexatious phlegm." sounds weird. But we have a footnote on the word phlegm, which means, apparently, indolence or indifference. So apparently he climbed up the stairs, not really giving a crap. There's footnotes throughout this book. I will read them all to you because some of them are quite enlightening. Apparently, the kitchen is inhabited by a lusty dame. She rushed into the midst of us, meaning Heathcliff, Joseph, narrator, and dogs, flourishing a fry pan, and used that as a weapon, and her tongue, to serve to such purpose that the storm subsided magically, and she only remained having a sea after a high wind when her master entered on the scene. So apparently a girl with a frying pan came in yelling and screaming. And someone asks, I believe it was Heathcliff, asks, "What the devil is the matter?" And he eyes our narrator in a manner that he could ill endure after this inhospitable treatment. So, in other words, it's not going too well, and he's a little bit mad. "They don't meddle with persons who touch nothing," he remarked, putting the bottle before me and restoring the displaced table. "The dogs do right to be vigilant. Take a glass of wine." It's weird he got oddly hospitable there at the end. "No, thank you," narrator says. "Not bitten, are you?" Heathcliff says. "If I had been, I would have set my signet on the biter." That means struck the dog with his signet ring. Signet ring was a giant ring that had a big thing on it that they would press and wax for a seal. If any of you don't know that. So apparently it's big, and it would probably hurt to get hit by it. "Come, come," he said. "You are flurried, Mr. Lockwood. Here, take a little wine." He already said he didn't want any. What the heck? "Guests are so exceedingly rare in this house that I and my dogs, I am willing to own, hardly know how to receive them. Your health, sir?" Question mark? Also, that sentence didn't make a whole lot of sense. He took the wine and returned the toast, which was to him. Whatever. I don't really understand the toasting thing. I felt loath to yield the fellow further amusement at my expense, and his humour took that turn. Apparently Heathcliff has a dark sense of humour. He, probably swayed by the prudential consideration of the folly of offending a good tenant, relaxed a little, and introduced what he supposed would be a subject of interest to me, a discourse on the advantages and disadvantages of my present place of retirement. So apparently he thought he'd be interested in where he was living, and the good stuff, and the bad stuff about that. I found him very intelligent on the topics we touched, and before I went home I was encouraged so far as to volunteer another visit tomorrow. He evidently wished no repetition of my intrusion. I shall go notwithstanding. It is astonishing how sociable I feel myself compared with him. So basically, an angry, a little bit scary guy told him, "No, don't come by tomorrow," and he's like, "No, I think I will. Because, well, I'm far more sociable than you are." If you are far more sociable than the person you're hanging out with, you need to hang out with somebody else. That concludes Chapter 1. Come back for Chapter 2 if you like Chapter 1, even if you didn't like Chapter 1. Chapter 2 will probably get better because hopefully we'll get to the story within the story, because the story outside the story is not very interesting, as you can see. So, bye!